tell us, what is TFA? Define kind of TFA and its purposes.
TFA is Telstar Freshman Academy. Its purpose is to build a freshman class that is strong, cohesive, able to collaborate, has problem-solving skills, and being here allows them to grow as a class together and become a strong group. So I think that's our main goal is to make them good people and a good group of kids.
And why is it needed? And Kelly, you've been here since the beginning. Was there something it was trying to address that led to its launching?
Well, I think that, a lack of engagement in the classroom or with traditional learning, maybe just wanting the freshmen to have more of a voice when they're in the high school rather than being, the little kids on the block. And so being here allows them to grow in that way without those influences back at school, even though they are back at school for a lot of the time.
That's interesting. So, yeah, in a typical high school, the freshmen are, stuffed into lockers and they don't matter, right? And here, for 2/3 of their day, they are the center of what matters. Cool. What challenges or obstacles does the program face? All of you guys have been involved for a while.
Certainly in the beginning, we struggled to get support from the community, being on a different campus and having some different ideas of how the students would spend their day. Are they still going to get enough academic rigor, that type of thing? Is it worth it? Why do you have to be down there? Change is scary, in small communities in particular. So we definitely ran into that as a challenge, but we've been really supported well between the district and the University of Maine Cooperative Extension too.
What do you think led to some of that parent or kid buy-in? Or how do you build that over time?
I would say we won over the kids and parents with our curriculum that we worked really hard on developing over the course of the first really 3 years in particular, making sure we had quality trips and experiences for the kids, some good outdoor learning, utilizing our, this facility and all that it offers, definitely, and also the project-based and really pushing the kids for some really good problem solving and higher order thinking skills because that was really needed, and I think that really helped get people on board when they saw what the kids were really doing. And we with all their projects they have a what's the word I want? Authentic audience.
You guys work together for a while?
Yeah, it's been a minute. Authentic audience. So that the community gets to see the final results in various ways, and it's really good. And I think that helped a lot.
Do you remember any particular experiences or moments in those early years where you're like, we're getting there, or we're winning, or this thing's going to be around, this thing's going to last?
Well, before COVID, we did, one of our projects was a food systems unit, and we would put on a community dinner, and the kids planned the meal, cooked the meal, prepared the meal, did it all, and we would hold it somewhere in town and used it as a fundraiser. And those moments with the kids of seeing them come together and be able to put on an event like that with hundreds of people coming to dinner, it was really pretty amazing. And those were the kinds of experiences that we had with the kids that I think led to that, what I was talking about before with that family. So when we spend a ton of time together with the same people, it ends up being very family-like.
And why is that an aspiration to be family-like in school? Isn't school supposed to be about reading, writing, arithmetic? Why does family matter in school to you guys?
I mean, I think like with this class in particular, if we don't have those relationships, it makes it so much harder, right? If we have those relationships, we can get much more buy-in with the students. We can engage them in their own way, then yeah, I think it
You
just
get
makes
them to
all
climb
the,
up walls.
right. Yeah. It makes all the world of difference. I feel like if we have those relationships with the students.
Right, so those guys have to build trust in order for the kids to be able to do that stuff. And what they were doing today, and they were bragging in my room about what they were doing and coming in. But they have to trust each other, and these two guys, like, totally in a unit like that. So having that family, and that comes throughout the year with, we do overnight trips, we take them places, we camp. So all of that leads to that culture that we're trying to build with them, and it gives them a connection. I think that's the most important part, is they have good adult connections.
Yeah, they see us in a different light. It's not just teacher student. It's, we're more like a family. Like, they see us in a school setting and out of that school setting, and we're all humans.
What?
Yeah.
You guys are humans?
We're humans.
And I mean, honestly, I feel like we also all three have different personalities for sure, and so we all connect with different students, in our own way. And so there might be students that I have really good relationships with and connect with very well, and vice versa for some of these others. So I think between all of us, it's we do really make good connections with the students.
And what are there obstacles that you faced as teachers or as a team of teachers, and how do you try to work through those? And is there? I'll leave it at that.
What do you mean?
Well, what are the challenges that you guys face that are different than what you'd face if you were teaching 9th grade science and you were teaching 9th grade English and you were the PE teacher, or you were standalone?
Right. Yep.
They came to you for one trip of the year.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, part of one fundamental aspect of the program is integration. So we have to work really hard, meeting every day, and just putting a lot of time and effort into figuring out how the different things we're doing relate to each other and how they contribute to one major project per unit. And it helps to show students that the real world is integrated and it's relevant. It's all knowledge is not separated into discrete classes. It's all mixed together, blended, and that takes a lot of effort.
And let's talk about that a little bit more. Like, why does it matter? Why an interdisciplinary approach? And why particularly in 9th grade an interdisciplinary approach?
I would say because, subjects aren't, in life, things aren't in a silo. And we wanted this to really give them the concept that learning, even in high school, has real world application. And you can apply all these things to your life. And so, science is everywhere all the time. And so to say that, you're only doing English in this classroom when we're doing a big project like Think Tank where they're researching and it's covering social studies and science and everything. And that's a lot of the content that they're learning. They might be using ELA skills, but they're learning geography and stuff about the land formations and the impact of those land formations. So we really just wanted them to see that life is learning and it's not categorized in that way.
I also think that collaboration and communication that is required for project-based learning, that is something we have to do with each other. And because it's two entities, we have, Bright 1-4-H and SAT 44. So there's a schedule back there, and we're down here, so balancing that is another challenge. Back to what are your challenges? It's different. Like if I was just teaching back at Telstar in my classroom, that'd be simple. But it would be super boring and I would never want to do it again. So being here, yeah, there's things you trade, and it takes extra effort and time, like Norm was saying, the effort that goes into, how are we going to bring this, who are the speakers we want to bring in to bring this unit in, and when are we going to make that happen, and are you guys okay if we do this schedule? And that's another benefit of being here. We don't have to worry about the schedule back there. We can have any schedule we feel like having. So.
Just to go a little further with the interdisciplinary thinking about, what do you see as the advantages in terms of what students are able to do and in terms of what teachers are able to do by having an interdisciplinary focus? Like, can you achieve more with the four of you and an interdisciplinary approach than you could as each of you had your own thing that you could do?
I'm going to say that we can accomplish skill-based stuff to a far greater extent than an individual teacher would, because that's very collaborative amongst us. We're all working on, skill-based stuff or like SEL stuff. The content, maybe we don't have as much content as 4 individual classrooms would. I don't really know anymore. But I think in my class, I very much just focus on how to do science and not worry about the content as much.
Or coverage as much, right?
Yeah.
I guess what I'm getting at is my sense, and so this is a very leading question. My sense is that you are able to amplify each other's content and do larger projects than you could if you were just at a English class or just at a, you know what I mean? That's what I'm getting at. So how does interdisciplinary work expand what's possible for kids? Maybe it's a better question.
Matt, you want to talk about, or Norm, about soil and canoeing?
Sure, yeah.
There's an example for you.
Absolutely. An example Kelly's talking about there is, especially in the springtime, she works on soil composition and soil analysis, and we'll go take samples while we're canoeing, right? Or while we're out hiking, right? Or we'll go to a place and go to Buck's Ledge, and we'll go on a hiking trip, and we'll be taking soil samples in those locations, right? So they get to be able to see that in the real world. They're learning about it in Kelly's classroom, but then here we go out in outdoor leadership, and we're doing that science out in the real world. So that's something that they might not be exposed to otherwise.
And why is that useful for kids?
I think seeing the real world application of it is all of it, right? They see how it's not just in a book. It's not just sitting in a classroom having somebody telling you about it. They're actually out there doing it, right? And I think that makes a world of difference in their engagement.
It gets them out of their seat. They're getting their hands dirty. It brings their education more to life. Like another example is, a few years ago, Kelly was teaching about snow, and so we went and dug avalanche pits and snow pits and analyzed the layers. So they're actually in there. They're not just like looking at pictures or videos of this happening. They're actually doing it themselves.
And then the skills that I don't have, that they have, it completely, then I can do things like they can dig avalanche pits and take kids canoeing, and I can, ride the gravy train.
Right, it makes it more three-dimensional.
Yeah, like on our canoe trip at the end of the year, right? We'll be on a lake. She's working on a water unit right now. We'll study water turbidity, and we might do water sampling while we're out there and see the differences between here and what Bryant Pond has, right? So we'll do that science in the real world again, while we're on a trip.
What do you think is the best evidence of TFA's success for you all?
I think one of the best things is when we see the senior class and how they've come together, and there's now new things since TFA started that they do together as a senior class, like they'll do a senior sunset and a senior sunrise, and the kids have mentioned that they just becoming more of a family themselves within the class even after they leave here. They do more together. And so that part of it really works. They also come back often. It's now a pretty regular thing for senior week, or on Monday they'll come back down as seniors and spend the afternoon here and swim and hang out with us and do some activities like they used to. They usually want to circle up.
Yeah, they
Even
miss.
though
They
that's
miss circle.
they hated it. This class hasn't actually
No,
complained
they-
about circle at all this year. It's the first time in a decade. I don't know why. Making a circle, just they hate it, but then they want to come back and do it.
So that's been really cool, that part. And they want to come back on that Monday this year.
Of course they do.
So just putting it out there. They told us yesterday.
Yeah.
We told them they needed to contact the office.
So today we had the good fortune of seeing a particular student make it to the top of that wall, clearly for the first time. We're absolutely thrilled for themselves, and others were equally thrilled for her success. I'm wondering how the rest of the day go for that student. Does what happened here have any impact on English or science class?
It did. I saw Emma. She comes to me after outdoor leadership, and she was so proud and bragging about what she had done. And of course, she had also brought cookies in today to share with, which she does frequently, to share with her friends and everybody. But she buckled down to science today like she normally doesn't, and was just outstanding in leading her group outside and being engaged, and just, you could tell that she was excited about what had happened in outdoor leadership.
And is that typical, or why does that matter? Why does success in one part of your world impact other worlds?
Yeah, I think so. I really think, I noticed one of the biggest changes we noticed during the years after we finished Think Tank, and they've successfully gone through that project, that is very difficult, and it ends with them presenting to a panel, and a lot of them change, and then they really start to believe that they can do things that they were really afraid of or didn't think they could do before, and they get a lot of feedback and compliments from our community during that, the panel members, and it really boosts them up, and it impacts their maturity, and it impacts how they face their day-to-day in the classroom.
So over the course of the year, probably everybody in this program is terrified of something. Right? It could be going up this wall, it could be presenting in front of community members, it could be being honest about who they are as a human in your English class, right?
It could be about spending a night overnight away from home, and we see that a lot, and we do those trips.
Why is it important to scare everybody?
That's where growth happens, right? Yeah. When you're outside of your comfort zone at least a little bit, right? You don't want to be terrified, but yeah, if you're uncomfortable a little bit, that's a good place to be.
Awesome. So let me back up that question from before about, are there examples that come to mind, stories that feel like this shows TFA at its best, or shows that we're working?
I think one of the things when it comes to the types of work we do here, and then we visit UMaine and the colleges, and we have a lot of kids in our community that don't really see college as a thing or an option, and really just think they're going to go into the workforce right after school. But that trip, coupled with the hard work they put in on these projects, and they get to meet people, and we actually often have college students have visited us to do work with the kids before, and then we go up there and they see them. They almost feel already like a part of the community, like they'll see them on campus. And we had one student in particular early on who recently sat on a think tank panel, and he's a chemical engineer with the mill, and he had no intention of going to college until going through this program. I want to say it was the first full year.
It might have been, it was a while ago.
It was quite a while ago, and he'd had some conversations, and he, I think, had a particular conversation with Norm about where Norm encouraged him to go to college, and he hadn't thought much about it, and he went, and on future trips we would run into him up there with our next layer of kids, and he could really express how this program helped him, and he saw what we were trying to do, and he's quite successful, and he came back and sat on the panel, and the other kids, so it was a really nice full circle. And I think we do give the kids a lot of confidence to leave Telstar High School and at least try something beyond that.
Because they made it up that wall.
Because they made it up that wall, because they presented and were successful, because they stayed overnight and didn't die. All those things.
The trip that he's talking about to the University of Maine is this really important trip, and kind of a turning point. The one early on is to any of the overnight trips, but the University of Maine trip, where they get exposed to what a college campus looks like, and we do fun stuff. We go to a basketball game and really show them, and they have a ball. And after that, you really see kids starting to think and starting to be like a little bit more open to, there's a world out there, and I might go explore.
Yeah, not liking the outdoor activities and being really nervous about that, but then, starting to realize piece by piece, oh, this is fun. Not only is it fun, but I can do it, I'm fine, and I like it. Really just piece by piece builds that confidence in them, and they apply it to everywhere, like they should.
So what would you say is the secret sauce of TFA? Why does it work?
I think it's the experiences and all the different formats, the projects, the trips, the climbing wall, the canoes. I think it's that. I also think, honestly, that has something to do with getting away from the rest of the school. Like, it's a little bit special. At first, they thought it was going to be like punishment, but then, as it gets partway through the year, they're like, I don't want to go back. And, they get
A lot of freedom
a
here.
lot of freedom here, and slowly treated a little more like young adults once we can. And
Well, that was the word that popped into my head first, was patience on our part to allow that culture and the family feeling and all of that to develop, and not lose your mind over what's going on in the meantime until you get to that place where I'm okay with going out in the woods with them and I don't feel like someone's going to impale themselves on a broken stick or
Which I'm sure you've seen once or twice.
so patience, time, and then it leads to through all those things that Doug said. It's where we end up, and it's where we end up every year. And then our end of the year celebration really shows what has happened, because we do a big to-do. We call it the Academy Awards. And we have awards, and we do a slideshow that shows them the whole year. From beginning to end, everything that we've done. We do a whole slideshow of memes. Each kid has a meme for themselves. So there's this whole culture that even in the end, we're still celebrating this family that we built. So it's, and ending the year with the canoe expedition, it's fabulous.
yeah, and they learn that learning is all the time, everywhere. And school gets such a bad rap in people's heads because I'm like forced to go and I gotta sit in a chair in this place and it feels like prison. And here, there's a lot more movement. There's a lot more things going on. Before they realize that they actually had fun and they mentioned it at the dinner table, and then they're embarrassed and they think they're a nerd or something.
Oh no!
And they don't want to talk
I'm a
about
nerd!
it. But we hear from parents all the time,
Yeah.
like, hey, my kid said like 4 sentences at dinner about school the other night. Like, really? Yeah. I'm like, great. And I think that really makes a difference. That not that it isn't hard, not that they don't hate it sometimes, not that they don't get mad and all of that, but in the end, I think they really see a lot of the connections that we're trying to put together for them and all these experiences. It works.
Actually, all that happened just today.
Yeah, right.
Yep, another good day then.
The people getting mad and
All right, so let me go back to that question about how has TFA impacted you as an educator, and how do you think your adult culture impacts your kid culture?
I would say like what Kelly was talking about before, about if we were teaching in our own classrooms by ourselves, it would be a lot simpler. We wouldn't have to coordinate and collaborate and plan and like figure out what are the connections between the different classes and how are those overlapping and how do we emphasize those. I think that's really really important.
But that what are the upsides of having that complexity? It's more work.
Yeah, well, but I feel like, we just have to be, for me, speaking for me personally, it forces me to be a better teacher. It's much easier to just give people worksheets and just, have them turn them in. And that's simple, but it's not good teaching. So it really forces us to think about, okay, how can we present this in the most engaging way? How do we break this down into the right amount of steps or the right amount of chunks? And, how can we make this accessible to kids with different learning styles or
you're solving that problem together as opposed to each of you solving it.
You know, there's multiple brains on all the things, and we have people right here to ask if we're looking for something or how do I do this better. And there's a lot. We do a lot of team reflecting together, and after trips, during projects, etc. Right after, like, what do we do? And then that document gets opened up the next year, and we're like, okay, that's right. We said we weren't going to do this.
Right.
Yeah. And it's. I agree with Norm. It's just way easier to teach back at school in your own silo, and I don't want to do it again.
No,
So let's hope TFA keeps us.
Yeah.
that's my reaction when you ask, how's it changed me as an educator? I'll be honest and say when Dr. Murphy, our former superintendent, first had that meeting in June of 2014, I was like, what the heck are you talking about? I'm not doing that. I thought it was the worst idea ever, and then we started, and I was pretty like, I'm gonna be traditional and I'm gonna just keep being myself. And I've changed over the years into far less traditional, much more open to, doing things outside of what I used to do. And now I would never want to go back into a classroom and do what I used to do by myself. I would never want to.
Wow. Why? What's so much?
Because this is, I think it's like the same things we say for the kids. There's so much more freedom and creativity down here where, we're not like in a classroom, have this schedule, and every day you're like, this is the same thing every day. Down here, it's like, okay, what do we need to do this week and how are we going to make it happen? What do we need to do the schedule? Who needs to go where? What's going on that's different? How do we make that happen? And so you have to be way more like on your toes, like Norm said. Definitely, there's a lot of people watching. A lot of people watching.
Exactly.
And
we hope.
You definitely have to think about what you're doing, because we know that have been eyes on us from the beginning,
Right. Why do you think?
because we're different.
Yeah, and we get to see the whole kid grow. Like, back in the ELA classroom, this kid gets better at writing, or they can read some more difficult text and understand it, better at presenting. But down here, I get to see somebody make it to the top of the wall, and somebody make it on an overnight trip, and to put these projects together, and they excel, and they're able to combine different subject matters and thinking together, and I see tremendous growth that I didn't see in the other setting. Just not nearly as obvious.
In Circle, I started saying in the beginning of the year that I was hoping to see growth by Thanksgiving. And then some time went by and I said Christmas. But now I am seeing it, and it's not Easter, and you can see it now. It's incredible. So that's the
And
patience you have to have.
what kind of growth are you seeing that's so encouraging to you? Growth in what way?
Their ability to collaborate, their helpfulness to each other, being more empathetic, just like, the routines that we have here, they know them and they're right into that, and that's all part of the culture, because once a family gets formed, you have routines, and once everybody's sort of flowing through those routines, it goes well, even though there's dysfunction along the way.
So this class had quite a reputation.
Oh, really?
This particular class coming down here, and they were a handful, and I suppose that's an interesting way of putting it. But they now.
But you guys are hands-on
treat
learning.
each other.
You're down the hands full.
Yeah, they treat each other so much better than they did, which was an issue. They treat us better. They're just.
They said thank you at the end of the circle today.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
pick up less empty bags of snack
There you go.
things every day.
I mean, Kelly, you mentioned me earlier, and we won't tell the other classes, but you said they were among your favorites.
Well, you know what?
What is it?
After
Why?
that, at break, a bunch of them were in there eating snack with me. And I said, I really like you guys. Everyone said these things about you before you got here, but you're like one of my favorite classes ever. And they were like shocked that I had said it. They said, no one's ever said anything like that to us. All these years that we've just been told, God, you guys are the worst class I've ever seen.
They've left a wake of,
Yeah, they have.
of teachers retiring and quitting.
Yeah, they went through the list with me, who they had gotten to quit, who they had gotten to cry. And I'm like, have you made me cry yet this year? And they're like, maybe not. I'm like, that's their measure.
Is everybody here next year after Thanksgiving?
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna go to you, Kelly, as a ninth grade, as a person who's worked in ninth grade their entire career, right? What is it, ninth grade's some describe as the make or break year. Why is this the right program for ninth graders? And you guys can add into it.
Because it gives them all these opportunities to grow. And there's a lot of adults to help nurture that as they go through our program. So there's a lot of safety net involved as well. And so I think at ninth grade, having all those supports, but also having those opportunities is super important for them because they're at that age where we can either grab them or, lose them. And so I think we offer enough in our program that kids can grab a hold of and feel like they're a part of something that's good.
What do you guys think? Why is this program needed for ninth graders? What is it to offer that speaks to this particular beast that is the 14 or 15-year-old human?
Yeah, I think it's the confidence building and just the recognizing that they can try things, they can fail. We're big about that, and failing is not failing, it's a learning experience. You can, screw up and fix it and make it better, but they just can realize that they can face these upperclassmen, they are going to make it, it's not scary, and there are different options that they can go and try and be successful with.
I would say, I think that it's a really engaging program. Like Kelly mentioned earlier, there was an issue with lack of engagement. And I think especially with this generation and after COVID, it's even easier for them to disengage and disengage from each other or, disengage from education and just they're entering a new school, and there's a lot of uncertainty. So there's even more, opportunity for that kind of thing. But this is really, it's really, it grabs them, right? It's like active. There's a lot of hands-on things. Education seems and feels more relevant because it's all connected. It's all integrated. So there's a lot more positive things in the form of education that takes place here for them. And